So I'm going to do a Q&A video today. What is the first book that made you cry? The first one that I remember making me cry was The Story of Bentley Beaver. It was one of those I can read books. I think I was maybe 8. It was by Marjorie Charmet, illustrations by Lillian Hoban, and for some reason it made me sob my guts out. I don't know. I don't have a copy. It would be funny to see it again, and I doubt I would cry now, but anyway. How does ADHD affect your writing? I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm autistic. I also have ADHD. It's interesting, is all I can really say. I tend to hyperfocus when I'm actively writing or researching. I will go through periods of several weeks or a month where I really don't do anything because life just is busy. But once I get back into it, then that's all I do. I think that's one of the reasons that I get books done as fast as I do, because I'm very much all or nothing. Why pre-order? This is a good one. I never knew until I wrote books that pre-ordering was so important. The fun thing about pre-orders is that, okay, so on a good day, you might sell 1 or 2 books as an indie author. I will sometimes go for a whole month without selling a book. Full disclosure, as an indie, you're not going to sell as many books. But the fun thing about pre-orders is that on release day, all of the pre-orders show up as being ordered that day. So if you get 30 pre-orders over, all the different formats or whatever, it will bump you up in the rankings. It will possibly get you an orange banner if you're lucky, best-selling in such and such category. So anyway, it makes your book more visible, more likely to be seen by other people who maybe didn't know about it, more likely to be recommended. So yeah, it's really a numbers game, but it's extremely helpful to have lots of pre-orders, and because it gives you a really good first day, and hopefully a good first week, and then it should be able to build from there. Are the places mentioned in The Summer I Found Home real? Yeah, actually most of them are. The graveyard, Twin Oak Cemetery, where the story kind of begins, is right there. Right across the street where the dump would be, there is a house. I think it's a newer house. I don't know that the dump ever was there. In my fictional reimagining, where the Wards live isn't actually a place. There is kind of a wooded pastury area in between the dump and the Wards. So I took a little bit of imagination there. The church is real. It's actually still standing. It was recently as in a couple years ago, somebody had refurbished it and reopened it as a pub. Beautiful job. They did an absolutely gorgeous job. Unfortunately, they had to close it because of unspecified family issues that needed to be dealt with. So I'm hoping that somebody else will buy the business and open it back up, because they did so much beautiful work on it. So the church is real. The school is real. It was built in 1922, so 3 years before the story begins. Would pretty much have been the only school that George would have known. First grade, he probably would have been at the old school, which was held in an old farmhouse. Let's see, where else? The train station isn't active in Turner anymore as far as passengers. Freight trains still go through, and I think they sometimes pick up and dump loads, but there's no passenger trains through there anymore. I have on my website an album with pictures of all the places. I will link to that in the comments, or not the comments, I will link to that in the description. Did you make any major changes to the manuscript when you decided to make it an adult book instead of a middle grade? This is a great question. I did make a few changes. The main one, my main goal was to still keep it appropriate for kids. So the main change is that I went ahead and used bigger words. I decided to play up the aspect of this is George as an older person recounting something that happened in his childhood. So I figure he can use words and even make references to things that would have been after his time, or after the time of the book, because he's an older guy recounting the past. And I also made some subtle allusions to things that might be over kids' heads, but the adults might pick up on. I was also slightly more explicit about mentioning Alice's suicide attempt scars. I do it in a pretty matter-of-fact way. I don't make a big deal of it. It's just something that George is aware of. He's seen them all his life. He doesn't really even think about them or wonder where they came from. He doesn't know what they mean. He doesn't know why his mother did that. I'm not sure when he figured that out, but in Ripples, it talks about why. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. The other main change that I made to the manuscript was, originally I had it divided into small sections, like I guess you could call them chapters, and each one had a dictionary word and definition heading followed by how the word tastes to George, because he's a gustatory synesthete, he can taste words. When I read the book to my then 8-year-old, she hated those headings. She said they were boring. She didn't like them. That's not the whole entire reason that I took them out, but it was one of the reasons. So now it's just in regular chapters. There's 2 parts to the book, and the parts are divided into chapters. Who is your favorite character? Well, I think I already said in the previous video, Louise is kind of my favorite character, period. As far as which character I relate to the most, definitely George's mother, Alice. I feel her burnt out, autistic exhaustion on a very visceral level, and I hope that it comes through. I mean, it was all derived from how I've felt over the last year, especially, I mean, minus the wrist cutting bit. Just absolutely wiped out. And I feel like I didn't really realize until this last rewrite, when I was doing my final revisions to publish it, how much I vibe with Alice. You mentioned sequels. What are the next 2 books about? Okay, the next one, the second one, is going to be called Shadows from the Sky, and it takes place in 1927, so 2 years after this, The Summer I Found Home. George and Louise will be 12. That's the summer that Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic, so that's part of the story. This one's going to be narrated by Louise, so that was a fun challenge, finding her voice and kind of getting a different perspective on their surroundings that we don't get with George, because George just doesn't notice things. And Louise is just a little bit on the chaotic side. I'm still working on that one. I've got a full draft. There's a lot of stuff that I need to flesh out some more. The third one, I don't really want to say a whole lot about that one, because it seems weird to talk about the third in a series when the first 2 aren't even out yet, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to release the second one. So I'm not going to say a whole lot about that, except that there's a bigger space between. It's going to start at the end of 1931, so they're going to be 17 at the beginning of that one. What is Élégie? I know I have mentioned a lot that if you pre-order The Summer I Found Home and let me know, I will send you my novella in verse, Élégie. And Perhaps I've been a bit vague what it's about. If you are subscribed to my newsletter, you would have a couple months ago gotten an email about it. But if you haven't and don't know anything about it, it's a novella in verse from the point of view of Louise's mother. So it's kind of her backstory. I will read you the first little bit. Prelude. Junction City Station, Oregon, June 1913. For days and days the singing tracks have carried me east to west, but here on this platform the tracks have gone silent, north to south, gleaming and glinting in the shimmering June sun. I am alone, waiting for a farmer to come who knows my face. I don't know his. I hug my handbag to my chest and wait, anxiously wait, pace. I could sit down on the bench in the shade, but I can't be still. What if he's old and hideous, sun-leathered skin, temper like the lash of a broken piano string? What if he's kind out of pity once he sees how unsuited I am, too kind to send me back again? Disappointed all the same in this bargain he's too good to renege on. Because I've never been a farmer's wife, or a mother, or cooked a meal. Mormor is gone. Mormor was my world, the only family I ever knew. After my parents died, she took me into her elegant, shady house, the house that ran down as I grew up, because all the money she had left she poured into music lessons for me. Years and years, all the best teachers Minneapolis had to offer, climbing up, reaching for the scholarship to Oberlin Conservatory that finally came, and we made ready for me to go this fall. But then she died at the end of March, and I was left with nobody, no prospects, and it seemed too risky to go. And I had to send that letter, signed with tears, saying I couldn't accept. I broke my own heart, bit down my pride, found an advertisement from a man in Oregon who asked for a bride, a good Swedish bride, to care for his children, because his wife died. I sent him a photograph, he sent me the rail fare. I packed my things and left Minneapolis the next day. I can care for his children, but what good will I be to him? In the station window I pause and see my reflected self, me in my impractical plum-poplin traveling suit, Mormor's dainty pearls swinging from my ears, a head full of music, and hands that have worked piano keys, never a washboard or a hoe, feet that easily dance over organ pedals, never fields of hay or gardens to be gathered. I turn away, choking on tears at the life I could have had and now never will. If I'm crying when he comes, I will tell him it is the hot and dusty summer air. Heat shimmering off the gleaming rails, hay-making haze on the horizon. I long for cool, clear water, but I am too shy to ask the station master, who keeps looking at me with a face I can't read. North to south and south to north, the soft percussive clicking of my heels on the platform, waiting, unable to be still. So that is the opening. And I have both a PDF and I have a Kindle format. If you'd rather me print it out and mail it to you, I can certainly do that too. It's not terribly long. So yeah, the ebook of The Summer I Found Home is only 99 cents through release day. I will say it only has one picture, whereas the paperback has all the illustrations. So if that matters to you, you will want to choose based on that. But if you get the ebook, 99 cents, you get a free novella. So yeah, just let me know which format you prefer, and I will send that to you.